Hi friend, Jeanette here. You're about to take one of my Spine Care Foundations classes. This is my signature class for back pain and spinal injuries. It's the first step in taking control of your life again, and the next step is going to my website, JeanetteConnery.com, and signing up for your free back pain starter kit. While you're here, please be sure to like my video, subscribe to my channel, and share this with all of your friends. Enjoy the video. Good morning and welcome to Spine Care Foundations. I'm Jeanette, your yoga therapist, and today's class is going to be fairly active. So just remember to follow the sensations of your body. Allow yourself to be exactly as you are in this moment and make adjustments as needed. If anything hurts, don't do it. And we're going to need 2 blocks today or your rolled towels. Rolled nice and tight, possibly a blanket or towel for under your knees. We'll be spending a brief period on the knees, so that might be useful. A strap and a chair. Okay, so we're going to start with the chair at the foot of the mat, the first 2 legs of the chair on the mat, and a block, or both blocks actually, standing on their tallest setting right there in front of the chair. Now we'll lie down on the floor with the feet facing the chair. And we'll begin with just a little bit of traction. Okay, so we're going to place the hands on the thighs right where they meet the body and push away from you, and you'll feel this lengthens out your low back. Try to keep your shoulders down away from your ears and take a breath here. Feel your rib cage expand. As you exhale, feel if you can get yourself a little bit longer. Wiggle a little bit to actually move your rib cage away from your pelvis so that when you let go with your hands, you maintain some of that length in your low back. So I'm going to have you now close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that, and run your attention through the parts of your body that are touching the floor, starting with your feet. Feel the bottoms of your feet touching the floor and turn them so that the toes are facing right at the foot of the mat. The inner lines of the feet are parallel to each other, and remember that when we have the feet lined up this way, it might feel slightly pigeon-toed. That's true for most people, and that's okay. Bring your attention up a little higher into your pelvis, and the back of your pelvis, the sacrum touching the floor, and hopefully the floor isn't too hard underneath you. If it is, you can always put a little padding there underneath your body. Make sure your entire body's on the same surface. We want a level surface for the body. And then bring your attention a little higher to your lumbar spine, where it arches away from the mat just a little bit, like a little rainbow. Now, if you have disc issues or stenosis or anything serious like that, it can be really helpful to place a thin prop underneath your lumbar spine to help you maintain this curve to prevent some further injury or aggravation of your condition. So you can do that anytime during practice, whenever we're lying on the back in the supine position. Drift your attention upward to the space behind your rib cage. You have your spine in the center and the rib cage coming out on either side. This is a heavy part of your body. Take a breath into your lungs, feel your rib cage expand, and as you exhale, release the weight of your entire heart center onto the earth. Relax your shoulders, relax your jaw, relax your hands. Let your chest feel wide and bring your attention up the back of your neck. Notice the way it arches away from the mat, just like your back, just like your low back. And then the back of the head, resting there on the floor. Bring your attention to your forehead and your chin. You might even want to put a finger on your forehead and a thumb on your chin and adjust the angle of your head so that these 2 points are level with the floor. This is a good indicator of neutral neck alignment. And most of us go too far in one direction or the other. So it's good to just check in with that too. All right, so now we're going to do a really brief breathing exercise before we begin. This is just going to warm up the breathing apparatus of the body and get us ready to move the body. So take a deep breath without flexing your neck or your shoulder muscles. So there's a challenge in and of itself. Okay, can we take a breath without using those neck muscles and shoulder muscles? Feel the bottom part of your rib cage expand as you inhale. And it's like a jellyfish, this breath. As you exhale, the bottom part of the rib cage comes back into center, and so does the upper part. When we inhale, the bottom expands, the middle of the rib cage will expand as well. And the top of the rib cage doesn't really do much. It just might expand or move out to the sides a tiny bit, but it should be barely perceptible. So to add to this, we're going to use the straw breath. As you exhale, blow through your lips like you have a straw there. And we're trying to make this breath as long as possible, this exhale. So the inhale, like a jellyfish, bottom of the rib cage inflates, middle of the rib cage inflates, and as we exhale through the straw, everything slowly comes back into the center. We'll do 3 more breaths just like that. Okay, now the breath will just return to its own natural flow. See if you notice any difference in the sensations of your body after doing that exercise. Check in with your pelvis, your low back, your belly, your chest and upper back and neck. And now we're ready to start a little bit of movement. So let's bring the feet and the knees together. And then we're going to look for our neutral spine. So tilt your pelvis away from you. And when you do that, the tailbone will kind of push into the floor a little bit, and your low back will arch away from the floor more than it was before. And then if you pull your pelvis into a posterior tilt, tilt it back towards you, then you'll feel the top of your sacrum touching the floor and the tailbone kind of lifted a little tiny bit. You'll also feel your low back flattening out onto the floor. So we go between these 2 extremes a few times, and it might feel actually like a gentle massage, and that's pretty nice. And then we're going to settle in the middle. So you're looking here for the place where the center of your sacrum is on the floor, just the center of your sacrum, and your low back is still arching away from the floor slightly. Now, if you take your peace fingers, the 2 first fingers of each hand, and place them just inside the hip points, you can take a breath. And as you exhale, pull your lower abdominals in, and you should feel those muscles turning on underneath your fingers. You should feel those muscles getting a little tighter. So we want to be able to activate those muscles and keep the pelvis in its neutral position with the center of the sacrum on the floor. And we're going to hold that as we inhale and open both knees out to the sides. And then exhale, bring them back into the center. So this becomes a really gentle abdominal exercise, moving the legs open and closed. And the gentle abdominal exercises are great for developing awareness and cultivating the ability to consciously use your main stabilizing muscles in other activities like standing and walking, bending over. So we're still inhaling open and exhaling closed. Continue. And I'm actually noticing it's kind of a challenge not to allow the pelvis to tip forward as I open my legs. So maybe that's what you're feeling too. Maybe we'll see, right? Okay, so now we're going to take a break for a second. The next thing is to try doing the same movement, but one leg at a time. And you'll find that it's even more challenging to keep the pelvis glued down where it is in its neutral position. When you bring your leg out to the side, the pelvis is going to want to tip over. So be aware of that. And we'll begin the exercise now. Inhaling, the right leg will come out to the side. And exhale, bring it back into center. Now, the more slowly you do these movements, the more control will be required and the more strength you'll gain. So it becomes less about the quantity really here. We're looking for quality. We're looking for full engagement of the transversus abdominis as we move the hip. Neutral spine supported by the deep core muscles will allow us to move our joints in a healthy way, a balanced way that will prevent overuse, wear and tear. So we're alternating sides. Inhale, the leg goes out. Exhale, it comes back in. And we'll do one more on each side before we take a break and then move on to the next exercise. Good. All right. So take your feet away from each other, find a resting position here. And we're going to now stretch the quads. We really do need to stretch the quads. So I like to do this in the lying down position by bringing the feet as close as I can to my body. Now the feet are wide, about as wide as the mat. And when you walk them up close to your body, you might feel some bend in the knees, and that might feel like a stretch already. That's good. So the next thing is to bring your right knee in towards the center and down. And there it is. There's the big quad stretch that I can definitely feel here. So let's inhale, bring that knee up, and we'll exhale, bring the opposite knee down and in, rotating the hip inward. Feel a stretch on that side. Okay, and we'll bring it back up. Now, if you are really mobile in your knees, you might be able to reach down and grab onto your ankles. Don't worry about it if you're not. Just know that when your ankles are this close to your body and you bring the knee in for a stretch like this, there is a potential to torque the knee. So be careful about that. What I like about holding on to the ankle though, is it gives me some leverage to be able to put some effort into deepening the stretch on the quad. And what I mean by that is I'm actually pushing my knee towards the floor, stretching out that quad muscle a little bit more, right? We'll come back up and we'll do the other side. So whether you're holding your ankles or not, just going through a second round of this stretch here, holding a little bit longer than we did the first time. All right, we're coming back up. And now we can do a little bit of really gentle bridging. So let's take the feet about hip width distance apart. And if you, actually, I think everyone needs to go ahead and grab a block, put it between your thighs. And this is to prevent the knees going out as we do our bridges, which is a pattern typical for people who have really tight legs. So this is helping to train the hips to move in a neutral position, activating all the muscles all the way around the hip together, co-contraction of front and back and sides. So we will inhale and lift the hips, pushing into the floor through the feet evenly from the ball to the heel. And then exhale, roll yourself down one vertebrae at a time. This actually can turn into a little massage for your back. Inhale up. And exhale, roll yourself down. Let's do that 3 more times. Okay, this is the last one. We're inhaling up. Let's hold for a moment here. And while we're holding, think about your glutes. You can even put your hands there on your butt to make sure those muscles are turned on. And lengthening your tailbone towards your knees. So there's not a really big arch in your low back here. No crunching sensation here. Nice and long. You can even take your hands and kind of pull that way. So think about tipping your pelvis back slightly. And if this hold is getting too long for you, please come down, rest, and then come back up. Now, the last thing I want to do here is add some upper body. So put on your robot arms. The elbows are in towards the waist and pressing into the floor. The fingertips are pointing up at the ceiling and the palms are facing each other. And you can press into the floor through the elbows and the shoulders. Give a little lift to your chest, making sure not to pop the front ribs out too much here. And the chin is coming down towards the collarbone, and that's stretching out the back of the neck. So by now you're probably feeling your hips all the way around the hip, getting a little bit fatigued, maybe feeling warm, and that's good. So we're going to say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and roll down with control. Release. And then we can take that block out. Put it right back where it was. When we're ready to get up, we'll be using that. Okay, so we're actually ready to get up now. I think we need to stretch the low back before we get up. Let's pull the knees in towards the chest. Rock side to side. Those bridges are wonderful, but they can sometimes leave the back feeling a little tight. So let's just, pause in the middle of our practice to make sure we take care of that before we move on. All right, so now we're gonna come over onto the side. I'd like you to roll over without any twist and then come up to hands and knees with your head towards the chair. So the foot of your mat now is the head of your mat. And we're just going to do a few brief movements before we go into a side bend, actually. So we're having the wrists right underneath the shoulders, Knees right underneath the hips and a neutral spine. So the low back has a little bit of an arch, the low abs are pulled in, shoulders are pulled away from the ears, and you're lengthening through the back of your neck. And let's exhale, shift your weight back towards your heels, and we're stretching the bottoms of the feet here with the toes tucked under. Let's come back up. We'll do that one more time. Good. So if this is really intense for your feet, it might be something that you want to come back to at least once a day until it starts to get easier. The feet are really important. We don't want them to be super tight all the time. It makes it hard to walk in a balanced way. So now we're taking the right hand over on top of the left hand. We're going to take a breath. And as we exhale, we're shifting the hips back towards the heels. And we're going to come back up on the inhale. And we'll do that 4 more times for a total of 5. Exhale, shift the hips back. Inhale, up. Exhale, shift the hips back. Inhale, up. Exhale, shift the hips back. Inhale, up. Last one, exhale, shift the hips back. Inhale, up. Okay, come back to center, and let's take these blocks, put them down on the floor in front of you on their lowest, shallowest, shortest setting. Put your elbows on the blocks right in the middle there, in the middle of the block. And then tuck your toes again, shift your hips back. Hands are together in prayer position, and we're going to come into a big stretch for the shoulders, the armpits, and the side ribs here. So the hands are together behind your head. You can feel the way your hips, your pelvis, that heavy part at the bottom of your spine is pulling your low back into a little bit of traction. It's pulling the pelvis away from the rib cage, lengthening out the space between the 12th rib and the iliac crest, the top of the pelvis on both sides. So now we're going to come up and we're going to do those side bends on the opposite side. Okay. And so that means from the neutral position, we'll take the left hand on top of the right, and 5 times we're going to do exhale back, inhale up. Number 2, exhale back, inhale up, exhale back, inhale up, exhale back, inhale up. Last one. Inhale up. And back to our neutral position. We'll just take the knees wide and shift the hips back for a little stretch here. You can put your forehead on the floor or just stay on your elbows like this. We'll come back up now, and we're going to do a twist. And now this is a twist that I haven't done in this class before, so pay very close attention. For some people, this twist is not comfortable. So if that is you, then I encourage you to just use this opportunity to take a break in child's pose or do some cat-cows or anything that feels really good to you. We're going to set this up very carefully though. So I want to make sure, first of all, that those of us with low back injuries are safe. And what we're emphasizing here is a twist in the rib cage. We're going to de-emphasize the low back. The low back twist is not the point of this. It's not the focus. But with the low back, what we are doing is shifting the hips back, using the hips to pull the low back long so that we can get some length there. And now the point, I'm getting to the point. So we're going to take this left hand, bring it through the space between the right hand and the right knee. And as you shift your hips back, you'll be bringing your left shoulder to the floor. Okay, and you can rest your head on the floor, and this right hand can actually move off the mat onto the floor beside you. So from here, I'm going to ask you to press the back of your left arm into the floor. Feel the way that pulls your shoulder blade away from your spine, stretching out all the stuff there in the upper back. And if this is feeling really good to you, you can work yourself a little bit deeper into the twist by pressing your right hand into the floor. Be careful as you do. Look out for sensations of warning, okay? And another thing you can try is reaching that left shoulder a little bit further forward, okay? Both hips pulling back towards the foot of the mat equally. Try not to allow one side or the other to creep up on you, creating a short waist. Okay, and now we're gonna come up. So press into your right hand, come up to neutral, and we'll shift back into child's pose and rest before we do the other side. So take a second to reflect on how that pose went for you. Did it feel safe? Do you even want to do it again on the other side? You know, because everything's optional. Don't do things that I tell you just because I'm the yoga teacher. You always have a choice what you do with your body. So if we're ready, we're going to do it on the other side. So this time it's the right hand that goes through the space between the hand and the knee on the opposite side. Shift the hips back. I like to tuck my toes during this pose. It gives me something for my hips to rest on. So the hips shift back, the right shoulder's on the floor, and we move the left hand off the mat onto the floor, right in front of your face. You can press the back of your right arm into the floor here and feel the way that stretches out the rhomboids, those little muscles that run between the shoulder blade and the spine there in the upper back. Okay. You can press into the floor through your left hand to encourage a little bit deeper twist in the upper back only, please. And if you so choose, you can work that right hand a little bit further in, a little bit further through. Make sure your hips are pulling equally back. And we're not getting a short waist on either side. Good. Now we can push into that left hand, come back up to center. It's really common to feel a little bit of weird stiffness when you come out of this twist. So walk your hands forward towards the top of your mat, cup the mat with your hands, grip it really well, shift your hips back and use your hips to pull yourself along again. This is my favorite stretch to do after that twist. And some days the upper back or the mid back is just kind of sticky. When you come out of those twists, they kind of groan at you a little bit, but I find that actually will go away for me personally. Hopefully, if that's the case for you, it's going away too as we move a little more through our practice. If not, take note that maybe if you do this twist again, maybe do it a little bit less intensely. Okay, so now we're ready to warm up the wrists, and we're actually taking these blocks. We're going to put them underneath the body. Put your wrists out in front of you and do some big circles here. Oh, wow, tight wrists. So just 5 circles in each direction. Good, and now we're ready to try out our down dog. Place those blocks right where they were in front of the chair on their highest setting. And then place yourself with a neutral spine on hands and knees, and then walk your knees a little bit further away from your hands, a little back towards the back of the mat. And we will exhale up into down dog here. Now, if you've been doing yoga for a while with me, you know that I like to come in and out of down dog a few times before holding. So that's with an exhale, we go into down dog, and an inhale, we come onto the hands and knees. This gives you a chance to feel it out and decide for yourself if down dog is really for you today. And just because you did it yesterday doesn't mean it's going to work today, right? Sometimes things change from day to day. So now we'll do a brief hold if you're ready. Spread your fingers wide. Let your hands rotate outward just the tiniest bit here. And if you're experiencing a lot of tightness in the backs of your legs, bend your knees, point your tailbone right at the sky. Now, this is something really good for back pain. Getting the back just right in downward dog is so much more important than getting the legs straight. Pushing into the hands, we can lift the low back up, really get some length, strengthen the multifidi, the muscles that periscope the spine. Okay, and now we're going to take the feet wide, walk the feet towards your hands. Okay, the head is still low here and hanging. We don't want to kink the neck by looking up from this position. We're going to put the hands on the blocks and keep the back straight, and then put the hands on the chair and bring the feet together. And we'll come up to standing. So we made it. Good. We did it with a healthy adjustment from the floor to standing. And now we're going to move this chair over. So the front leg, one of the front legs is still on the mat. The other one is off the mat. And we're going to leave it there for a second so we can try our mountain pose before we do our standing poses. So feet about hip width apart-ish, maybe a little wider, maybe a little more narrow, depends on what your preference is, but the toes need to be pointing directly forward. And like I mentioned before, that's gonna feel like pigeon-toed for some people, and that's okay, right? Just for now, try it this way. And we're going to roll the shoulders back and think about a line of energy coming all the way up from your heels, up the back of the body, lifting you tall. And then down the front of the body, rooting you in, pulling the low ribs in, activating the low abdominals, quads, and engaging a little bit of pressure into the balls of the feet. Now let's lift the toes, separate the toes. So we have just the toes lifted, the balls of the feet are still on the floor. And you can feel, with your toes lifted and separated, you can feel the arches of your feet lifting away from the floor. Good. So now let's do another challenge and try to keep those toes separated as we put them back down. Well done. Okay, so now we are really gripping them out with the feet. We have a firm foundation. We have these domed arches underneath the feet, lifting us up, supporting us. We're going to do a little shoulder exercise. It's a variation of something much more complicated that I won't bother you with the Sanskrit name. And it has two parts. There's a shoulder up part, shoulder down part. So let's try just inhale the arm up, tap your upper back, your shoulder blade with your hands. And exhale, bring the hand down, turn the palm behind you, palm facing out behind you, put the back of your hand on your sacrum or your low back, whichever feels more comfortable. Inhale the arm up, touch your shoulder blade, exhale the arm back, the back of the hand on the back. Now, as we're doing this movement, what we're aiming for is no movement in the spine. The bottom ribs stay put, the head stays back, right? Because sometimes when we try to do these movements with our shoulders, the head wants to come forward, or we do all sorts of things with our body to compensate for tight shoulders. So we're just practicing moving that shoulder with no compensation, and notice where your tight spots are. It's okay that you have them. This exercise over time will help loosen that up. Okay, so last one here. Now we're ready to try the other side. Inhale, left arm up, tap the shoulder blade. Exhale, rotate the palm facing away from you and the back of your hand on your back, either the sacrum or the low back. Inhale up, touch the shoulder blade, exhale, back of the hand on the sacrum. Now, I think it's important to mention that Some of the people I know who watch these videos actually have shoulder issues, and this might be uncomfortable. That's perfectly fine. You can skip this, or you can just do the best you can staying off of painful spots. For example, if you feel pain in your shoulder when you do this portion, putting the back of the hand on the back, you might decide to just come this far, right? Or only as far as you can without triggering that irritation. Last one. Good. All right, so now we're ready to do some standing leg work. And I'm really excited about the sequence I put together for you today because it's really going to work everything, but in a really put together way. We've done a really great warm up and we are ready to work those legs. So the first pose we're going to do is warrior two. So you can see I have my left toes pointed at the head of the mat, my right toes pointed right at you, okay? My left heel is pointing right at my right arch. So we're going to bend that knee and straighten just a few times. And I want you to look down at your toes on the left foot and make sure you can see your big toe when you are bending that knee. If your knee goes inward, you won't be able to see the big toe, and that is putting your knee in danger. So let's avoid doing that. By working the knee outward to the wall behind you, you're working your glutes and your hips in a way that is going to open them up. So now we're ready to hold, and I'm going to ask you to push into the floor through your right heel. We'll add the arms. And of course, we're making sure that this knee, the left knee, is never surpassing the ankle. It's right on top of that ankle. Palms are facing up. We can turn them down as long as we keep the shoulders externally rotated. And now we can look out over that left middle finger, gazing out fiercely, with focus, intention, and fire as the hips start to tell us they are warm. Okay, next we're going to straighten that knee. We're going to move into a triangle pose. So this involves taking this right foot, scooching it. Well, I'm so forward on my mat, I need to scooch my whole body back. We want the heels in line with each other, and we want the toes of the right foot pointing about 45 degrees. So let's put a little pressure into the big toe knuckle on that back foot so we're not dumping out onto the ankle here. And we're going to put a block on the chair. Make sure this chair is right next to your leg, okay? So we're going to shift like a little teapot, shifting the hips, warming them up. Sometimes the hips don't really like this. I've worked with a lot of people who struggle with this particular part of triangle pose, and that's okay. I just want you to know it's common. So we can hold here with this knee slightly bent, right? And we can put the hand on the block and bring the arm up. Now, some of us might be able to move that block to a lower setting and come down a little farther. Okay, some of us might even be able to put the hand on the chair itself. So wherever you are, I'd like you to lengthen by pulling your hand towards you slightly. So you can lengthen out this side, the bottom side. And then press into that hand and work yourself into an upper body twist here, working your left shoulder behind you. And so this twist is the whole point of the triangle as we're doing it on this particular repetition. And I'm going to ask you to also push into the thumb meat on your left hand. Right shoulder's working back behind us, like you're trying to press your kidney back. Okay, and if your neck is okay with it, you can look up at your hand. Good. Now we'll bring the knee into a little bend and come up. And we're going to turn both feet towards the front of the mat. And there's some width between the feet. So you're not on a tightrope here. We're going to bend that front knee. And we're going to lean forward, keeping the back straight. Work your left hip back towards the foot of the mat so the hips are straight and even. And you can add your right arm here, making a straight line from hand to foot. And then maybe even add your left arm. Reaching tall, reaching long, keeping the chin slightly tucked, lengthening out the back of your neck. Root into the mat through your right heel. And arms come down. We'll do this whole sequence on the other side. So moving the chair now. Okay, we started with warrior 2. This time, left toes point at the head of the mat, right toes point at the camera, the right angle there. Left heel points at the right arch. Bend your knee a few times, watch where the knee goes, adjust your stance as needed. Maybe you need to walk your foot away from you a little more if your knee is going out past your ankle. Check your foot, make sure you're pressing into the floor through your big toe knuckle and that you can see your big toe. And now we'll come into a hold. Bring the arms up, turn the palms down, keep the arms externally rotated and look out over your right middle finger. Do your jellyfish breath while you're here. As you inhale, you have your lower abdominals pulled in to support you, but your rib cage can expand out in all directions. Don't forget to press into the floor through that left heel. Good. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and now we're ready for triangle. Okay, so we're going to now make sure the chair is right where it needs to be. Line up the feet so the heels are in line with each other. The right toes are at a 45-degree angle. Okay. Block is on the chair where you needed it last time. And we'll do just this little movement. This is a shift of the hip. You can see my pelvis moves here from level with the floor to tilted, sideways, yeah? My spine doesn't change. Okay. Now we're ready for a hold. We're gonna come down into our triangle and put your hand where you need it, either on the block or on the chair. Slight bend in that front knee. Press into the big toe knuckle of the front foot. Okay, and add your arm and we'll pull into a twist here. So we're now working that left shoulder behind us in this twist, and we're pulling through that right hand to lengthen out the right side body so that we don't have this kind of shrinking action happening, right? We want that really long. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bend your front knee, come back up, and we're going to do the lunge type position. So the toes of both feet are pointed at the front of the mat. Don't worry if you need to cheat your back toes out a little, that's fine. Bend your front knee, put your hands on your hips and press that right hip back because that is going to want to creep up and shorten your waist. Press into your hips again and lengthen your spine. Chin comes slightly down. Inhale the left arm up. Inhale the right arm up. Take a breath. What we're looking for in a difficult pose like this is ease. How do we stay calm and relaxed in the middle of a physical challenge? Keep the back long and straight. And come back down again. Good. So we're going to do more leg stuff. We're going to start with the chair on the other side, right where we started. We're going to do triangle again, and we're going to do it a little slightly different way this time, a slightly different emphasis. So everything we did last time is the setup for the way we're going to do it this time. So can you remember the way the feet go? Okay, we've got the toes pointing to the head of the mat on that side, 45 degrees on this side, heels are lined up with each other. Take a breath. As you exhale, lengthen yourself and come into this pose, this triangle pose. Add the arms with your hand wherever it was the last time, on the block, on the chair. Okay, come into your twist, bringing that right shoulder behind you. And now we're going to inhale, bring the arm up overhead and gaze at your hand. Exhale, hand comes down and you look down at your left hand. Inhale, bring your arm up and look up at your right hand, really stretching out the right side of your body here. Exhale, look down at your left hand, the right hand comes down. Reach through that right hand, pull, stretch into your trapezius muscles there at the base of your neck. Last time, inhale, look up at the hand. Exhale, look down at the other hand. And come out of it. Next, well, just one more thing. This is really going to challenge that left hip. We'll come into our warrior two stance and we'll bend that knee and we'll put the hand on the chair. So some of us will need the block, right? Maybe even here. Some of us, some of us might be perfectly happy with warrior two. But if we're going to work on bringing that leg in towards the body, increasing the range of motion in that hip, we need to make it a little deeper. So if that's where you're at today, if you're ready for that, this is where we are. And then you also have the option of putting your elbow on your thigh. Okay, making a straight line from wrist to ankle. Pulling, try to pull that left knee up towards you as you're holding here. Work, don't forget to work that right shoulder back just a little bit so gravity doesn't pull you into a forward curl. And then we're ready to come out. I told you this was going to be a really active class. Okay, so we're almost done with the active portion of class. We just have to finish up this side of the body and then we'll be able to cool it down. So we started with our triangle, remember? We're going to put right toes facing the top of the mat, back toes at 45 degrees, and the heels in line with each other, hands on the hips. Take a breath as you exhale, lengthen up. Take another breath and exhale as you lean to the side. Okay, place your hand on your chair. Add your arm and come into that beautiful triangle twist. It's a little twist, it's a subtle twist. This is actually more of a reversal of a forward curl, but it feels like a twisting motion. It takes that kind of effort to make it happen. So are we ready to add the arm movement? Okay, make sure your feet are right. Okay, we're pushing into the big toe knuckle on that right foot. Inhale, left hand comes up, look up at your left hand. Exhale, left hand goes down, turn your head and look down at your right hand. Reach through your left fingers. Inhale, up. Look up at your left hand. Exhale, down. Look down at your right hand. Last time. Good. Bend your knee, come on back up. You're doing great. Okay, next is the side angle pose. Again, we're starting with the warrior feet, and you can just do warrior again if that's what you're choosing. If you're feeling ready to try to really work the range of motion in that hip, we're going to come down into that knee bend, place the hand on the chair, and add the arm. Same principle applies from triangle, working that top shoulder back to avoid rounding like that, okay? This really opens up the side of your body. And then those of us who feel particularly mobile today can bring that elbow down onto the thigh and now try to pull your right knee up towards you. It's just an activation of the muscles. Nothing's actually moving when you do that. Okay. You can do that whether you're on the chair, on the block. You can try that pulling movement. Okay, and now we're done. We're done. Let's move the chair more to a more centered position here at the foot of the mat. And we're going to face the chair in mountain pose. Inhale the arms up, hands together. Exhale the hands down in front of the heart. Pause here for a second and feel your body. I'll give you an old Chinese proverb that came across my awareness today. The past is gone. The future isn't here yet, but today is the present. Today is a gift. And that's why they call it the present. Okay, so we're going to take the feet wide. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, place your hands on the thighs, bend your knees, shift your hips back, and put your hands on that chair. Okay, I'm going to come down onto the knees and turn around so your feet are facing the chair. Good. So we'll move into child's pose for a second here, and we'll come back up on the inhale. Exhale back. Inhale up. Exhale back. Inhale up. Okay, so I want to give you a really big hip stretch, and I'm warning those of you who have had hip replacements. If your incision was in the back of the hip, you'll want to skip this and lay on your back and do the figure 4 hip stretch that we've done in class before. The rest of us who are going to try this, we're going to bring the left knee up towards the left thumb, work that left foot towards the other side of the mat, and walk the right leg back. Now, chances are your hip is not going to go all the way down to the floor. So you can use your blocks, your blankets to put underneath your hip. So you can rest here and really get a good stretch. Roll your shoulders back, press into the floor, and lift yourself equally on the right and the left sides. Okay, and then we will try the other side. So we'll come out of this, do one hip circle in each direction before we move on to the other side. And now you'll see what I mean by placing the block, because we're doing it on this side now. So right knee towards right thumb, right foot towards the left side of the mat, walk the left foot back and put that prop under your hip to help you get some support as you're trying to get a stretch in your hip. Roll your shoulders back, lengthen out the back of your neck. Use this as a spinal extension. We're working the spine here into a very slight back bend. So all the principles of back bending apply. Try to keep those bottom ribs in front, down in front, back of the neck long. And now we're ready to come out of it. Block goes away. 2 hip circles in each direction. One in each direction, 2 total. And we're ready to come down onto your back. Finally. This is the favorite part of class. Okay. So lie down on your back, put your hands on your thighs and press. Lengthen yourself out really well here. And then we're going to get the strap. We're going to stretch out your legs, particularly, specifically, the hamstrings. So put that strap around the ball of your right foot. Okay. Keep the middle of your sacrum on the floor. You remember that from the beginning of class. And pull your leg in towards you. Keep a small bend in your knee. If you're really tight, your knee bend is going to be bigger. If you're hypermobile, remember a bend in the knee is better actually, because then you're stretching your muscle and not the ligaments behind the knee. We don't want to feel this stretch behind the knee. Okay, so if it feels good, you can even stretch out that left leg. We're trying to keep the spine neutral as we stretch the leg and bring the leg in towards the body. So that means the center of the sacrum is on the floor. There's a small rainbow in your low back. Shoulders are relaxed. Now let's take both ends of the strap in the left hand and bring that leg across the body. Don't come into a big twist here. Take your right hand, put it on the right hip crease where the leg meets the body and press that hip away from you. And that will deepen the stretch for your hamstring and also lengthen out the side of your body. Okay, and now we're ready to stretch out the inner thigh. So bring the leg back to center, bring that left foot back up onto the floor, take both ends of the strap in the left hand, right hand, and open both legs here. We use both legs in this pose to help keep that pelvis right in the center, keep the back from going into a big twist as the pelvis flops over to the side under the weight of a leg. We have weight of both legs pulling equally in both directions. Okay, so now we're ready to switch sides. Take that strap off and put the strap around the ball of your left foot. Find your neutral spine with the pressure on the center of your sacrum, a small rainbow arching away from the floor on your low back. Small bend in the knee, pull the leg in, and if it's comfortable for you, you can stretch out your right leg on the floor. One more breath here. And now we'll take both ends of the strap. In the right hand, pull your toes down, please, as you bring that left leg across the center line. Place your left hand on the left hip crease. Push that hip down away from you. Oh, yes. So this particular hamstring, the outside one, tends to be the tightest one for most people. We use it the most. It's very important. And it's just tight. So now we're going to bring it back into the center. Bring that right foot up again onto the floor, both ends of the strap in your left hand, and open both legs out to the sides, stretching out the inner thighs. Okay, come back to center and take the strap off. It's now time for you to do any last movement that you want before we go into our final rest. Some people really like to do happy baby here like this. Okay, and some people like to grab onto their opposite wrist and pull that arm across. So you get another one last little upper body twist, switch sides. This is all optional. And then come into your resting pose. I'm going to invite you to use your chair this time for your resting pose. With the legs on the chair. It feels really good. It's a great way to relax your back. So You can be here, and I'm going to come up and actually read to you while you rest. This is a poem inspired by an Egyptian poem. So I don't know if that, oh, yes. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Inspired by an ancient Egyptian poem from around 2000 BC. No doubt this was taken from hieroglyphs on some tomb and translated to the best of our ability. Life is before you today like children going forth into a garden. Life is before you today like the smell of newly mown hay, like sitting on the shore on a windy day. Life is before you today like the flow of an unknown river, like the passage beyond first wondrous discovery. Life is before you today like a yearning for your real home after years spent in sweet captivity of youth. So, dance the fiery circle of deep alchemy. Dart the swallow's arc into its barn nest. Return to your source waters and be reborn. Know your life. Be your life. I'm pleased that you joined me for yoga today. Those of you tuning in right now and those of you watching this video later, may you be well. May you be happy and peaceful. May the causes of your suffering be removed. May that which covers your heart be dissolved. May all beings be well. Namaste.